On behalf of the organizers, I warmly welcome you to today's launch of the European Network on Monitoring Antisemitism. The network was established a year ago in response to the European Commission's strategy of combating antisemitism and fostering Jewish life that requires reliable and comparable data about antisemitism in Europe. Consisting of Jewish and non-Jewish civil society organizations across Europe, its aim is to build and maintain a sustainable reporting infrastructure for antisemitic incidents that will serve Jewish communities and affected persons. The network was founded by the Federal Association of Departments for Research and Information on Antisemitism, Bundesverband RIAS, the Jewish Association Czulent in Poland, and the Jewish Community of Vienna. My name is Deborah Hartmann. I'm the director of the Memorial and Educational Site House of the Wannsee Conference in Berlin, and I'm serving as member of the network's advisory expert board. The expert board consists of 12 members representing a variety of academic research and civil society organizations, as well as Jewish communities and other stakeholders. With its expertise in the fields of studying and combating antisemitism, we do all we can to support the important and innovative work of the network, review working standards, and give professional advice. It is an honor to be your host today. Now I would like to introduce our guests. Katharina von Schnurbein is the European Commissioner, Coordinator on Combating Antisemitism and Fostering Jewish Life. Zielinska is a board member of the Jewish Association Czulent in Poland. Benjamin Gele, who is with us online, is the Secretary General of the Jewish communities in Austria. And last but not least, Benjamin Steinitz is the Executive Director of the Federal Association of Departments for Research and Information on Antisemitism. Before we start with our short presentations, I would like to encourage you to prepare questions and share them in the online chat or address them in the subsequent question and answer session. First, Benjamin Steinitz will tell us more about the network and its tasks and objectives. Please.
Thank you, Deborah, for this wonderful greeting and opening. Good afternoon, everybody, from my side. Austria, 500%. Germany, 320%. France, 1,000%. Netherlands, 820%. Poland, 820%. Czech Republic, 400%. And Italy, 300%. Those are measured increase rates of recorded anti-Semitic incidents collected across Europe in the aftermath of the Hamas massacre committed on October 7, 2023. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, but too little is known about its transnational dimension. There exists no comprehensive methodology to put the dramatic developments in the various countries into relation. ENMA aims to accomplish exactly that. Does anti-Semitism in Austria, Germany, Poland occur more as a physical violence or as verbal or written abuse? How many Jews have been confronted with anti-Semitism in the three countries? What common forms or stereotypes of anti-Semitism are being used in the three countries? How do the recorded anti-Semitic incidents relate to other ideologies of inequality? Do events like the October 7th massacre impact European Jewish communities similarly, or do we face country-specific challenges? Who are the groups that mobilize for demonstrations, in which context anti-Semitic statements can be witnessed in each country, and in how far are they acting across borders? These are some questions that we aim to answer as European Network on Monitoring Antisemitism. By mid-2025, for the first time, comparable data about anti-Semitism across various European countries will be made available. The network intends to unify the civil society-based documentation of anti-Semitism in Europe. In order to achieve this goal, we have agreed to working principles and currently implementing the developed methodology. I will highlight 4 aspects of this approach. First, we determine the anti-Semitic character of a reported incident by using the IRA working definition of anti-Semitism and the IRA working definition of Shoah denial and distortion. Both have been most widely accepted by state administrations and Jewish communities around the world. The IRA working definitions are most suited for monitoring anti-Semitism in all its forms, regardless of the political background of the perpetrators. Second, the documentation and categorization of verified incidents is carried out using a common database software and a corresponding codebook on the defined categories. Each member organization has employees trained to document anti-Semitic incidents using the database software and the codebook and to provide counsel to those affected. Which 5 aspects of anti-Semitism are we aiming to compare? First, the frequency and type of anti-Semitic incidents. Second, the recognized form of anti-Semitism. Third, the entanglement of anti-Semitic statements or actions with racism, sexism, or LGBTIQ enmity. Fourth, the affected persons, be it an institution, a group, be it a Jewish or non-Jewish individual. And fifth, the categorization of political group backgrounds. The third pillar of our approach, our efforts are coordinated with key umbrella organizations, Jewish umbrella organizations like the World Jewish Congress and the European Jewish Congress, and will improve the reporting infrastructure for anti-Semitic incidents. Our offers will be approachable for all walks of Jewish life and follow a victim-oriented and community-based approach. In contrast to police statistics, the ENMA reporting system starts below the threshold of criminal liability. The experiences of those affected and the perceptions of witnesses are the starting point for our recording logic. ENMA's work will be partisan. The perspectives of those affected will determine all possible steps in the work on the reporting offices. This can involve support in filing a report to the police, arranging psychological or counseling or legal assistance, but also accompanying public relation work. If necessary, victims are referred to specialized counseling services for victims. And the fourth pillar, the database software, it checks the completeness of each entry and thus enforces unified coding. The software allows member organizations to run very complex queries, read-only numerical search queries across borders of the participating countries. Technically, member organizations deploy the database software within their own IT environment, thus maintain full sovereignty on their national data collection and are responsible for the GDPR. It allows them, or this database was developed and is provided by the Bundesverband RIAS. Thus, our effort is going to tackle the dramatic underreporting rate of anti-Semitic incidents across Europe. According to the second RIAS survey by the European Union, averagely 79% of the Jews from 12 European member states who had experienced anti-Semitism did not report the most serious incident. ENMA is a community-based approach that aims to build a resilient and independent infrastructure to foster democratic values under attack. It is also an overdue civil society response to existing national and European strategies against anti-Semitism. It is without a doubt a game changer in the European landscape on research and prevention on anti-Semitism. We are all very, very committed and happy to launch ENMA today. If we are successful in the long term, the improved collection of transnationally comparable data on anti-Semitism will also provide decision makers at the EU and national level, as well as law enforcement authorities, with a better basis for analysis the overall situation. Furthermore, the improved data collection can initiate reflection processes among law enforcement agencies and thus reduce experiences of secondary victimization. Some key facts about the current project phase. In 2023 and 2024, we are funded by the European Union under the Citizens, Equality, Rights and Values program, and also with the support of the Alfred Landecker Foundation. The overall budget for the 2 years is 440,000 euro. While we are aiming to welcome new member organizations, we have already included as associated members the Fondazione Centro di Documentazione Ebraica Contemporanea, SCEDEC, based in Milano, Italy, and the Federation of Jewish Communities in the Czech Republic, based in Prague. Last but not least, I want to thank the project coordinator Lior Fink and the grants manager Leonie Rupp, as well as all employees of our member organizations who are spending extra time in order to make our operation a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Our next speaker is Katharina von Schnurbein, and she will speak, among others, about the strategic importance of an European network on monitoring anti-Semitism. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I would like to thank the representation for hosting us and for all the organizations here from RIAS and Czulent, and also online, Benjamin from the Jewish community in Austria, for launching this. ENMA is really an answer to one very important action that we have in the EU strategy on combating anti-Semitism and fostering Jewish life that was adopted in 2021. I think I don't have to tell you the tsunami of anti-Semitism that we have seen since the 7th of October, but the fact that you could name the percentages of increase already shows that there are countries in which we can see these increases, and there are a lot of other countries in which we cannot see these increases because nobody actually monitors them. There are no civil society organizations to monitor, and they are not really monitored either by the state. So this is very important. Anti-Semitism needs to be made visible in order to address it and to fight it, and this aspect is, I think, one of the central aspects why we put it also so much into the center of the strategy. Now, we know that anti-Semitism, and I do want to frame it a bit, it's a threat to the Jews above all, and that would be sufficient to fight it. What we have seen on the streets, the demonstrations calling for the killing of Jews, even the celebrations that we saw of the Hamas attacks, however, goes also further. It's a threat to democracy, the conspiracies that we see, that doubt that actually the elected officials would reign the country and rather see some ominous force in the background, but also question to our security and threatening our security. And I think if you take these three aspects together, that we see the threat towards a minority plus threats to democracy and to security, it shows the importance of this network and how important it is to bring what is in this very high level of underreporting reflected to the fore. As you already said, 8 out of 10 Jews do not, or victims of anti-Semitism do not report, according to the FRA survey. And one of the reasons is that reporting is too cumbersome. That's why we also said we need structures that are easily accessible, that have a low threshold, and that are at the height of the digital development as well. So possibilities to report via an app or online, in order to ensure that we see the incidents as they are. That's why we have decided to support ENMA with almost 400,000 euros for this starting year, and we hope that it will be an initiative which will bring together many other civil society organizations and really boost also capacity among those that already exist, and initiate in other countries similar organizations that can be a bridge between the victims and law enforcement or the public authorities. We see anyway, and we've seen it for many years now, that where organizations like the 3 that are building this consortium here exist, the recording of incidents go up, and we see much more how the situation is. There's one aspect which is, I think, very important with having civil society organizations complementing public authorities, is that while the public authorities record the clearly illegal incidents, hate speech, hate crime, according to European and the national law. The advantage of what Benjamin already also said is that the civil society organizations can go beyond. So they also record the lawful but awful things. The toxic expressions that can make Jewish life difficult on a day-to-day basis. And I think in order to know what's really going on, we need to have both aspects. And that is one of the reasons why the IRA definition is so important, because it's non-legally binding, but it gives a basis to see what is happening. And in particular, what we have seen since the 7th of October is that Israel-related anti-Semitism has become one of the main sources in public spaces, in universities, in schools, to voice anti-Semitic ideas. I believe I've said almost everything I've wanted to say. Yeah, one aspect that I believe will come from it, and Benjamin, you also already hinted at it, is that if we make anti-Semitism more visible, we will also support policy making and research about it, because I think that the 7th of October and the aftermath has also shown that some of our instruments have not worked. And so we need to look really at what we need to do differently, and for that we need to have the analysis of monitoring anti-Semitic trends, seeing where things are going, and this you can do only if you monitor what's happening at the moment and you can develop a trend. So I think this is it is really a side possibility of this network to develop these kind of trends across Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katharina von Schnurbein. Now I'm handing over to Benjamin Negele, who is hopefully with us. Benjamin Negele will give us an overview of the situation in Austria and share with us insights from their annual report. Yeah, here he is. So.
Hey. Happy to be there. My apologies for being only online due to the current circumstances in Israel. First of all, allow me to tell you that I'm very grateful for the lead and input of RIAS, Benjamin Steinitz, the entire team, but also partners, and of course also the European Commission for the generous funding. We have been facing as a Jewish community in Austria, mainly in Vienna, but also some other federal states, the biggest challenge when it came to anti-Semitism, of course, mostly and foremost due to the consequences of the 7th of October terror attack in Israel, with a spike in anti-Semitism. Benjamin Steinitz had mentioned it already, of over 500%. We had an average of 1.5 incidents a day up until 7th of October of 2023, and from the 8th of October until the end of the year, a spike of over 8 incidents per day that have been reported to our reporting unit. And it's always very important to mention the reporting units, similar to others within the ENMA framework, are units that only take in, validate, and put into statistics incidents that have been reported and validated based on the IRA working definition. So we unfortunately must assume that there is a much higher percentage of incidences that actually occurred but have never been reported to us. So despite the spike, 1,147 incidences, reported incidents over the entire year. It's a shocking and terrifying record for us since the monitoring started over 2 decades ago. These incidences have been only reported and validated. And for us, as a reporting unit with 4 full-time staff attending and actually supporting people that have been affected by anti-Semitism, which cannot be mostly, but is not only excluded to Jewish community members. This is a very important issue for us, not only for the statistics itself, and of course the political consequence that it has, both in terms of reactive and proactive measures that we've been taking together with the government. But we have 2 other pillars that our work bases on that is very important, at least as important to us as the statistics and the reporting, which is actually the caretaking on a psychological level, as well as the legal support when it comes to actual incidents that are beyond the threshold of the law, which unfortunately has been also a spike in the last year of 2023. We had 18 physical attacks, mostly in the period of the 4th quarter of last year, that are definitely and qualified as antisemitically motivated. This has been both the spike of anti-Semitism, not only in the last year, but also in the years beforehand, has been one of the main motivators for us to be part of this network. We have been cooperating already beforehand in very close and strong terms with RIAS, also with Czulent and other national organizations. But given the need to even put even more effort into the proactive and reactive measures, also have the tools in hand, which is of course always ultimately the statistics, the numbers, the black and white numbers when it comes to the incidents itself. This has been an urgent issue for us to do it cross borders. Why? Because the problem itself is cross borders. The problem itself is more and more international. We not only see it in the German-speaking countries, but we see it as a terrifying phenomenon, especially after the 7th of October attack, as a global phenomenon in all different continents. And therefore, it's even more important to tackle it, both statistic-wise, both reporting-wise, but also when it comes to the measures being taken on the European level and in cooperation with the European member states on an international level. And thereby, this project, ENMA, which we are very happy and grateful to be part in, is so important, especially after the 7th of October. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin Negele. And our next speaker is Anna Zielinska. She will talk about anti-Semitic incidents in Poland and the current situation there.
Okay. Thank you very much. I am honored to be here with you to mark the launch of a transformative initiative, the European Network on Monitoring Antisemitism, ENMA. This is a pivotal moment in ongoing fight against antisemitism in Poland, and our presence here underscores the importance of this endeavor. As we gather, we are acutely aware of the historical imperative and the contemporary challenge that antisemitism presents today in our society. Poland has traversed through a period where antisemitism was not only tolerated, but was manipulated for political ends, seeping into public discourse and normalizing in the mainstream media. Despite the progress we've made, Stereotypes and prejudice against Jews persist, fueled by ignorance and intolerance. In today's digital age, online platforms have become breeding grounds for hate speech and misinformation, perpetuating anti-Semitic rhetoric and undermining the fabric of our society. Our monitoring efforts have revealed the prevalence of disinformation, often disseminated by organized groups, posing a significant threat to public safety. This is also very true after the 7th of October. Addressing these challenges requires coordinated efforts from government authorities, law enforcement agencies, civil society organizations, and community stakeholders. The Jewish Association Czulent collaborates with cities in Poland to endorse our working definition of antisemitism. We provide training for law enforcement officers, operate reporting platform to collect, analyze data on anti-Semitic incidents. We are committed to empowering vulnerable groups affected by antisemitism, and through our extensive research and surveys, we have identified significant underreporting of incidents and the lack of support for victims. Therefore, our victim-oriented support initiatives aim to provide much-needed assistance to victims, offering legal and psychological support through dedicated channels. We advocate for improved reporting mechanisms, transparent systems for prosecuting hate crimes, and institutional support for minority communities. We aim to create a safer and more inclusive society for all through strategic partnerships, advocacy, and victim-oriented support. By standing together, we can overcome the challenges posed by antisemitism and build a future of tolerance and understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, I would kindly ask Felix Klein, the Federal Government Commissioner for Jewish Life in Germany and the Fight Against Antisemitism, who is with us today, to join the stage and share his thoughts and perspective with us on what we have just heard.
Thank you, Deborah. Ladies and gentlemen, it has already been said that today's launch of the European Network on Monitoring Antisemitism is a momentous occasion, and I am particularly pleased about two key aspects of it. As a diplomat and a committed European, first of all, of course, I consider any useful new pan-European endeavor a positive development. And I want to use this opportunity to thank my dear colleague Katharina von Schnurbein for her tireless work that has brought about so many vital new structures in the fight against anti-Semitism in almost all EU member states. Structures in the fight against anti-Semitism, this is the other of the key aspects I mentioned before. Anyone who has heard me speak in recent years knows that I consider the creation of structures the single most important building block in any sustainable fight against anti-Semitism. This is actually also reflected in the German national strategy against anti-Semitism and for Jewish life. And one of these structures concerns effective data collection on anti-Semitic incidents. What does effective mean in this regard? In very short, it means that those affected by Jew hatred or those witnessing it have the possibility to report any anti-Semitic incident in the most direct, fast, and uncomplicated manner, and that these incidents are collected, verified, analyzed, and reported on properly. This structure has two tremendous advantages. Firstly, it significantly lowers the threshold for those affected by anti-Semitism to report the hate they encounter in comparison to filling out a complaint with the police. Secondly, victims of Jew hatred can report any incident, not just those that are relevant to a criminal prosecution. Taken together, the data collected in that way paints a picture closer to reality of the state of anti-Semitism in any given country or region. For many of you, this structure is not new because in Germany, we are lucky enough to have RIAS, who are doing just that. And I am really proud and very, very happy to have supported RIAS and the outstanding work of CEO Benjamin Steinitz and his excellent team for so many years now. Creating an overarching European structure in ENMA that will serve the same purpose is the next logical step and I congratulate all those involved with it. It is, however, not only a logical step, but also a tragically necessary one. The numbers have just been mentioned. Since October 7th, the floodgates of hatred against Jews have opened widely. We have seen a slight decrease of anti-Semitic crime in the first 3 months of this year, but still, even today, more than 6 months after Hamas's horrific terrorist onslaught against Israel, anti-Semitism in Germany and in Europe as a whole is rampant. Campuses as well as the cultural scene are just two of many spheres of public life deeply enmeshed in anti-Semitism. The federal government has not and will not stop to protect Jewish life and combat anti-Semitism with all means at its disposal and on all forms. But as elaborated in our national strategy, no government can take on that fight alone. So, as anti-Semites have increased their efforts in attacking Jews and hurting our democracies all over Europe, we, together as Democrats and defenders of Jewish life, also need new allies, new structures, and new initiatives to stay ahead of the curve. In these difficult and challenging times, I'm happy and grateful that enma will add an important component in the fight against anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? There are no questions in the chat so far, so I have prepared one question. So for the reporting of anti-Semitic incidents, you developed a complex set of categories to collect finally comparable data. And besides general forms of anti-Semitism, you also include differentiation of more specific occurrences in different countries. So I was wondering if the post-October 7 situation, does the post-October 7 situation pose new challenges on your work? So would it be necessary to adjust certain categories? I'm thinking, for instance, of the intensification of denial of the atrocities, or also the new quality of the accusation of genocide. Is this something that you discuss at the moment?
We had a very intense workshop on categories exactly taking place on the 9th of October, I think, and we were, as enma gathered, we were thinking to suspend the workshop actually, because people are having other obligations and duties, but we continued, and I think it was a good decision, otherwise we would not sit here today. With regard to your question, I can only, like we discussed this for sure, but I can only speak for the German context at this very point, because we are not, and for the German context, this was definitely a problem which we try to face in reassuring what we have developed as categories. So surely there are new ways of anti-Semitic expressions with regard to conspirational myths with regard to the attack, and new intertwined forms of post-Shoah anti-Semitism and Israel-related anti-Semitism, but actually we decided to keep our category system because it is proved and valid, and rather look into detail in how far certain terms, for example, get a new meaning in the context of the aftermath of the October 7th. But maybe you can also share your position. I mean, in Germany, the structure was really very strongly used as never before, but it was there. And it was established, and I think this is also something we can say that the established structures, like Felix mentioned, are operational even in such extreme times.
I would say that as a member of the operative group of enma, the group that worked out the categories and forms of antisemitism, we put a lot of thought into deciding what each category means, what it encompasses, and I think that they're pretty extensive. And also, antisemitism is being very often, and especially in Poland, it is being recycled. You would find very similar stereotypical myths and prejudices that are being used in the new context of anti-Israeli propaganda. So I think that the categories defend themselves, and we will be able to categorize what's going on right now according to them. Thank you.
Maybe I can just add something with regards to other aspects of our strategy. And I think what will be very important is to make sure that they all go together. I mean, you are already involved with the Vienna Declaration, which is a declaration that was initiated by Vienna as a reaction to the EU strategy to develop a common methodology on recording of anti-Semitic incidents across Europe. So with regards, for example, to these categories, I think we will have to see in how far this can become a basis for creating these categories all over Europe, and to make sure that we don't have parallel tracks now, but that these things come together. The Commission is also bringing together on the request of Austria, actually Germany and Austria, in a project-based cooperation with regards to the recording of incidents and methodologies. So I think here we will have to see in how far we can really make sure that the processes are intertwined. And just as an information, also in response to the categories, but beyond, is that we are now working on a Europe-wide survey on measuring anti-Semitic attitudes. It's the first of its kind. It's never been done in a comparative way for Europe as a whole. It will come out in 2025, and I think it can become another source as with regards to what we actually need to measure and what needs to be reflected in the categories that need the box that you can tick when you open the screen and then have to register anti-Semitic incidents.
Thank you. Benjamin Egele, would you like to add something?
No, just the complexity of anti-Semitism, as mentioned by our colleagues already, is a very challenging one, both in terms of analyzing it, reporting on it, putting it into a statistic, and at the same time, I think this has been the challenge for us as well, not neglecting any of the subcategories while making sure that the effectiveness of the network itself is not being jeopardized, and that the categories on a national level, as well as the categories on enma, are as overlapping as possible. And I believe we are in a very good way to do so while actually comprehensively analyzing and reporting on all the different forms and categories.
Thank you. So we have a question from the online chat, and that would have been my second question as well. So the current situation clearly demonstrates the need of such a network. However, the future of your work is not secured. You will only receive funding until the end of this year. So how do you think you will be able to continue your work afterwards? And also, yeah, how can you expand your network? Which countries will then participate? That's the question from the online chat as well.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Unfortunately, this is a project that ends in at the end of this year. So project funding has a starting and an ending point. That's the logic of it. So we are currently looking for other calls from the EU, but also from national governments to come in. Maybe those who have signed the Vienna Declaration are first responsible to allocate funds in their commitment to improve data collection on a national level. I think what we built, or as far as I understood the discussion so far with our partners, is we will we build a resilient infrastructure on reporting that follows a very committed and well-designed approach that will move on. We have to find money for sure to pay staff and infrastructure costs, but the way I perceive this network, and also from my discussions with the partners, is that this is something to be there for a longer time, and yeah, we hope to find support for it.
Well, from the Commission side, I can say that we have given the seed money, let's say, to set up the network. Unfortunately, our programs usually are 2 years. Now we are in a cycle where we have just changed from having yearly possibilities for application to bi-yearly possibilities. So this is where this comes from. However, there are other possibilities as well on European level to apply, as Benjamin mentioned. I think there is one important aspect also to it with regards, in particular, those countries that have signed the Vienna Declaration, that they need to build this capacity nationally in order for the organization then to be able to join this network. So there is no impediment in the meantime also to build it and to make sure that the methodology that is being used here inspires what happens in those countries that do not have organizations yet on a civil society level. And there are actually quite a few that don't have this at the moment. Also, those who are members of the Vienna Declaration. So I think, yeah, we will have to discuss, how it can be taken forward. But it's not that it will come to a stop in 10 months, but that these things will continue, and then there is definitely a commitment also from our side to make sure that, and I think we would be stupid, if we invest now and then after 10 months we say, okay, that was it.
There is another question. Given the rise and the persistent anti-Semitic views within the respective countries, how can the reportings provide grounds for policymakers or civil society to help to combat anti-Semitism?
I think that if you have information, you can act and you can create feasible and sustainable policies and respond to a problem. That's why I think that enma is so important, because only if we gather information, if we cooperate with Jewish communities, if we encourage reporting, if we combat underreporting, we will have a clear picture of what Jewish communities across Europe experience. And then we can communicate it to the policymakers, and we can work with them to create feasible policies that will be targeted to a specific need.
Yeah, so I really hope that you will be able to continue your important work. The advisory board will do its best to support it. And yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.